For a look at impeachment's next steps in the Senate, as well as the vote today on the USMCA trade deal, let's bring in our next guest, Senator Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania. Senator, what happens, what will happen when these articles come to the Senate? And by the way, when do you think they'll get there?
Yeah, that's a good question, Becky. This has gotten bizarre. I didn't anticipate that Speaker Pelosi would decide to introduce this new wrinkle of sitting on the articles of impeachment. How that's going to somehow affect Republican senators is a great mystery to me. Obviously, there's a certain level of skepticism about this trial. The Democrats are implicitly acknowledging that they mustn't have done a very good job if these witnesses are so important and they never chose to pursue the legal measures that would have compelled their testimony. And so withholding this is somehow going to get us to do their work. I'm at a loss for that. So I have no idea when she's going to send them over to the Senate. But if and when she does, we will take them up as we're obligated to, and we'll begin a trial. I think it makes a lot of sense to allow opening arguments by the prosecution, allow the defense team to make their case, probably allow for written submitted questions by senators to be answered by whomever they're addressed to. And at that point, which was probably a couple of weeks, then I think we should sit down and decide, okay, how do we proceed? Do we need to bring in witnesses? Do we need to subpoena documents? Or are we ready to go to a vote on final conviction? I'm not prepared to make that judgment today, but I think we'll get there after we have this, this preliminary phase.
We heard from Mitch McConnell, just played the soundbite back about how he said he is not impartial. He seems to have made up his mind. What's holding you up from making up your mind at this point? No,
so Becky, the way I look at it is I've got an obligation to hear the case that the House makes, and I'm going to listen to that case. But I'm also, a reasonably observant citizen, and I've been observing what's been going on, and I have not seen anything that, to me, even comes close to rising to the level of an impeachable offense. So I'm going to listen to what is said. I'm going to listen to the testimony. I'm obligated to do that. But I would be obfuscating if I didn't acknowledge that what's out there so far doesn't seem to me to be impeachable.
Senator Toomey, I get that you're perplexed with Ms. Pelosi on her strategy, but what is the end game? To string it out closer to the election, or is it to deny the president the ability to narrate this story in his own words?
I'm not sure, because I just don't see any sort of logical outcome that serves the Democrats' goals, unless possibly they think that by putting a spotlight on this issue, public opinion will shift and there'll be some kind of big pressure brought to bear on Republicans to do the work that the House refused to do when they were supposed to, by their own vote and by their own process, get these witnesses. But I'm speculating. I honestly don't know what she's thinking.
Senator, we were talking about this in the last hour, independent voters and what this means to the 2020 election. Obviously, there's a view that this is going to rally the Republican base or rally the Democratic base. But the folks in the middle in those swing states that hear about the impeachment and what I imagine will be a continued sort of, drumbeat on this, what you think that does, and they're not just, by the way, to the president, but to those in Congress.
So I think they're getting tired of it. They're probably already exhausted of it. I mean, how long have we been hearing about this? And let's be honest, the effort predates the whole Ukraine conversation by a lot. So I'm not convinced this is helping Democrats politically, except it does help Democrats in Congress avoid a Democratic primary challenge from the left. Let's be clear. There is a political pressure that's involved in this on their side. But I got to believe most independent voters are they're through with this.
Senator, let's switch gears and talk a little bit about USMCA, that getting passed today. That has been something we've been waiting for quite some time. What do you think about this being here? What will it mean? Let's just talk about the economy, even in your home state.
Yeah, so, I'm a bit of an outlier on this, it appears. I've got a piece in today's Wall Street Journal making my argument for why I think USMCA moves us backwards on trade.
Yep.
And my fundamental belief that I feel strongly about is that the purpose of renegotiating NAFTA and negotiating the USMCA was to diminish trade. And I think it's very clear when you look at the end of free trade in automobiles it's manifested in this agreement, the expiration date on this, the very onerous labor provisions, completely unprecedented in all of our trade agreements. Every trade agreement we've ever done thus far has been designed to expand trade. This one is designed to go in the opposite direction. The good news is its impact will be very modest, right? The really detrimental aspects are concentrated in the auto sector. The expiration date is a problem, but I think the net effect is a little bit of lost growth, marginal. Mostly I'm concerned that this not be a precedent or a template for future trade agreements, because then that would be a clear step away from free trade and toward protectionism.
President Trump had threatened to rip up the old NAFTA. I know you have made the point here on the program in the past that he doesn't have the authority to do that. Right. But when the president speaks, he has the bully pulpit and he can make things happen.
Well, yes and no, right? He can make the threat. He might even believe that he has that authority, but I think the evidence is unambiguous. Look, it's not, you don't have to be a constitutional scholar. The fact is, NAFTA was implemented through legislation that was voted on in Congress and signed by a president. That makes it a law. The president cannot rescind the law unilaterally. He can't rescind Obamacare. He can't rescind a tax law. He can't rescind NAFTA either. And so the threat to do something that he doesn't have the legal authority to do really shouldn't compel us to go backwards on a really important idea, which is expanding trade.
We are out of time, but very quickly, can you tell us what you think about this phase one of a purported deal with China on trade?
Well, I mean, the headlines are encouraging. I'm hoping that the substance of it measures up to the headlines and that this is enforceable, but it certainly seems like movement in the right direction to me.